Something I never see discussed in weight loss spaces, especially with super obese people, lifelong obese people. We used to call them life fats in the fat guy community I was in. If you're a life fat and you haven't been able to like stop the binging and restricting cycle that generally happens with people like us, or if you've tried to diet over and over and over again and you haven't been able to lock in properly, um, I would like to present to you a concept that I never see discussed really in these spaces. I see them discussed in the health in every side and in the health at every size community, but I never see it discussed in the fitness community. Which there is overlap, of course, and if you disagree, you're an asshole. But uh, something that a lot of people don't do when they're trying to lose weight or when they're trying to change their relationship with food is how do I articulate this? I'm sorry, I haven't. I wrote this out yesterday in a YouTube comment to somebody, and then I haven't like thought about how I'm going to present this. So this is probably draft one. What is required to significantly change your relationship with food is a loss of guilt and shame, right? It doesn't matter how much you lock yourself away from certain trigger foods and things that you find yourself binging on. I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, even in my earliest days, in my childhood, my favorite foods came with an asterisk, and that asterisk was shame, guilt, deep existential trauma, not trauma, troublesomeness, turmoil. That's the word, turmoil. Uh, uh, you know, I can't speak for what it's like to eat quote unquote bad food, which I don't believe there is any such thing as bad food. There's bad relationships with food. Um, but I could never eat a bad piece of food, even if it was my favorite. Pizza is my absolute favorite food in the world. What a cliche. But I've never, until very recently, I never in my childhood or my adult life ate a pizza and truly, genuinely just enjoyed eating the pizza, right? There was always something under the surface, and I'm not talking about the sauce. I'm talking about the shame, the guilt, the self, not deprecation, but like the beating up of myself for doing it while I'm doing it, right? And it took literally years of learning to allow myself to truly, genuinely just eat the pizza with no shame. A big fat one, a disgusting amount of pizza. I had to force myself to allow myself to eat my binge foods happily, right? And that took a lot of work, and it took a lot of getting there. And, you know, this approach is not going to work for everybody, right? But neither does the standard just restrict approach work for everybody, right? I think, Lorenzo, please, Mr. Luigi, please. It takes effort. I see, I lost my train of thought. You that darn cat. It takes an enormous amount of effort to be able to just build discipline, regardless, or without also addressing the root of the cause. And, you know, some people literally don't have the time to take the approach that I'm recommending, right? You know, there are people whose health is so drastically bad that they need to stop eating what they're eating now and immediately shift into, you know, a totally different lifestyle. But that's so difficult, and it isn't terribly sustainable. It's doable, but it's very, very insanely difficult. But if you have a little bit of time, or if you have nothing to lose because you've been trying for so long, like I was, and without any success at all, then maybe spend a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, just eating, just letting yourself eat. Literally stop dieting. Literally stop dieting for a year. Maybe less. But it took me more than a year. It took me several years to get to the point of where I am now with my, like, when I started my account, right? Like, this is a years long process. But literally spend active time, a significant amount of time, learning to just enjoy food, learning to just eat the thing that you want to eat without any shame, any guilt, any attached stigma, any attached self, I can't think of that word that I'm trying to use here. Self, not efficacy, effacement, whatever. Y'all get what I'm saying. This is terribly long and so rambly. I should probably chop this down and re-edit and all that stuff. But yeah, too long didn't watch. Let yourself eat food sometimes. Literally give up on dieting for a while and learn to eat delicious, disgustingly greasy, terrible for you foods in volumes that are medically unwise. Literally, I'm not joking. Like, that's what fixed me. That's the only thing. Learning to truly be able to enjoy these foods with no shame and guilt. The foods that were literally killing me, right? I still am, right? There's, because I'm not fixed yet, but like, I am dying of obesity, and I was dying of obesity when I started this project and when I started getting better. And I had to learn to literally eat the foods that were killing me in order to remove their control over me. And it's quite paradoxical, but it's the only thing that I found that works, you know? There's a saying in Overeaters Anonymous, which I don't attend, but I've grown up around someone who has for a long time. And there's a saying in Overeaters Anonymous that when you're quitting things like drugs and alcohol, unless medically necessary, you put the tiger, the metaphorical addiction tiger, into a cage and you don't open it up again, right? You just don't go in the cage and you're fine. But with food, you have to open the cage 3 times a day and take the tiger for a walk. And to build with that analogy, to build off of that metaphor, sometimes you got to pet the tiger too. Sometimes you got to pet the tiger, you know? Think about it. I'm going to try using this. That didn't work. 7.